Yeah,
Yeah, so first of all, congratulations on receiving the Sean MacKenzie Data Engineering Scholarship
yeah,
at Edinburgh Napier University,
mm,
and big congratulations on that, and also on getting into the program.
yeah, yeah.
Um, yeah, so how did you get interested in data engineering?
Yeah. It's quite a long story. So my background is an architect. Not architect in software development, but architect of designing buildings.
Oh, like a real architect.
Yeah, yeah,
Oh, that's pretty cool. Like I guess data architects are real architects too, but real building architects are the real architects.
yeah, yeah. There's a different definition of this title, and so my background was from Hong Kong. So I was born growing up in Hong Kong, and I have actually spent 2 years of my study in Glasgow during my undergraduate. Then I worked in Hong Kong to become an architect. And I don't know if you heard about there was a platform called BIM, Building Information Modeling, in the
Mhm.
what we call the AEC industry, the architect, engineer, and construction industry. So I was quite intensively working on this sector since 2018. Then I moved to London, 2021, with a job that is designing on Euston Station in London. So I kind of specializing my stream in BIM with architecture and helping the project in London. And so the project that I used in working on is HS2 Euston was a multidisciplinary project. We got like civil engineer, network rail, London Underground, and it come across so many like software platforms and data. And so as you probably can guess, like we need to start to how to managing data and using different like software, but at the same time we try to get the metadata from one single platform, then doing like in Power BI, and I was starting to grasping the idea of data pipeline. But I
Oh,
mean not
okay.
the data pipeline actual data engineering, but I mean on the real project management that I'm working.
Right.
And I would say it was a total disaster. And I don't know, probably
I've written many of those.
yeah, and it was a kind of a broken data pipeline that we are trying to fix,
Hmm.
and it was so difficult, and I started reading some books about like data engineering, uh, specializing on like how data pipeline working in some cloud platform, and it's starting to gradually move me to another discipline.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
So you decided to change your focus on your change your discipline a little bit.
I would say yeah, and not just only discipline. I would say my future career, hopefully.
Oh, okay. Oh,
Yeah,
so you've made a whole change into data engineering.
I
And
yeah hope it will be. Yeah.
okay. And what was it that got you interested in doing a master's at Edinburgh Napier University?
Yeah. So since I moved to London, I started to like self-learning coding in different platforms like Coursera, Udemy, like LinkedIn Learning, but it's all kind of broken into pieces. Of course, I
Right.
mean, I can do it for one specific task for, the job that I've been doing. But yeah, I would like to having a more like high level views of how data engineering works. And also since last year on April, I changed to working in a digital team in my company. So we do like
Okay.
software development for specifically, of course, for some software. And there was, I would say, like very little that my companies tried to grasping the idea of how to make like data-driven decisions in the business.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Oh, that's great. I remember one of the courses was called data driven decision making in the master's when I graduated a few years ago, but I certainly enjoyed that, and I think companies in general are becoming more aware that they need to be data driven. Do you think that in general, staff are becoming more data aware? That not even, staff that aren't even, IT, they're not in the, working on data projects. Do you think that just general staff are becoming more data aware?
I think so, yeah. I think because due to the change of COVID, that make us have become more aware about the communications and decision making based on data driven. And yeah, and also the firm that I'm working is the engineering company. And so I would say that's kind of semi-related to software development and data driven decision making, and which will actually saving, I think, time and cost for long term. Of course, I mean building up the appropriate structural data based data warehouse that take lots of time and learning curve on this, I think.
Oh, I see. Yeah, and so you've been studying at Ed Napier, and you've been in how many months now?
I start actually from last year in September. So yeah. So
5 months, 6 months.
Yeah.
Oh, so how's it going so far?
Yeah, I will say this semester I enjoyed more about the business intelligence, talking about data warehouse, and they do have some assignment about how to using the example that we are taking is how to make UK government to become more data driven, in terms of how the decision making across multi-department. And so by reading a lot of books and materials, I starting to grasping the idea of data warehouse and how to using data warehouse to probably not interfere in each department works, but collaborating with the database, hopefully. Yeah, I would say there was less technical side, like coding and the actual, I would say the actual practical side that maybe not yet happening, but because maybe that will be later on the dissertation instead of the course now.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. And did you find that your previous work experience helped you with the coursework?
Partially, I would say yes. Yeah, because of the experience that I have in the project in London, that may get me the awareness of how data pipeline is broken.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Make you difficult and suffer.
The disaster set you up perfectly, right? So
Yeah.
you have a a unique perspective when you're starting doing the coursework that you can work on something that you've attempted before, and I think that's really great. I found a lot of the coursework really tough when I was going through, especially for me, the machine learning and doing as much of the math that I could do, but before we actually just got to doing the programming in Python and in Java. One of the courses was doing it in Java. So I found that to be quite challenging. Have you gotten that far yet?
Not yet. We still only have chosen the first 2 semester, I think.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah. So, and what kind of tools and languages are you using right now in the course and at work and things like that?
Yeah, at work, I'm heavily using on C# for the backend development. So for the semester 1, the information system engineering was partially using C#, which is correlated. Of course, I mean, they're using WEF, where actually I'm a bit doubtful does anyone still using it today. But I mean, that's a good example for.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, neat. And what kind of project did you do with that?
So we are doing a they call like backyard helper apps that they're trying to make for people who have voluntarily want to do something for their neighbors in the gardening, in the, I would say, British context. Yeah.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, so they want to make a platform that helping the manager to managing the volunteer in a more systematical way. Where but I would say like in the middle of the way, I was a bit stuck on the actual project because I'm doing in real life is we're using React on the front end. We're using Azure, Cloud Bob for storage, and the assignment was they were so focused wanting to only using on C#, and I don't know how to do it actually.
Oh,
of course, I'm proposing like we're using partially on cloud and how to do the front end, and I think that is not what the tutor wants. But of course, I mean, I get past. It's just like I thought like the exposure on one particular program may need to be more like multidisciplinary in terms of the languages. But of course, I know
I see.
the courses is relatively short. I mean, for one term. So
yeah, I see.
They cannot cover everything, I think.
Yeah, I remember we did a C# project too. It was different, but and then I also programmed with Python. So I remember I'm trying to remember. We did the machine learning in Python, and we did like a data pipeline for NLP with Java. So you're going to have some exposure coming.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I think that's taking like I think the course is a good thing to giving you like a step by step to moving like more in deep learning. Because if you do like self learning online, you grasping everything like a little bit from everywhere.
Yeah.
But it's hard to giving you the full picture, and I think
it's nice to have some feedback. Yeah.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, very, very nice to have some feedback while you're trying to learn it. I know for me, I was very new at machine learning and getting my head around the concepts, but then also doing the programming part of it and getting the results and interpreting results, because you don't really get that as much in a course, like a sort of like an online course kind of thing, as you do if you have a teacher there that can give you some feedback and say, well, your loss graph looks like this and this is what it means. You need to watch out for these things. That's really great feedback to have. So tell me, have you watched the channel much? Did the channel influence you at all?
Yeah, your channel is one of the drivers that made me that I thought like I should take in the course on this. Of course, with your scholarship support, that is something I am so appreciated and unexpected, honestly. And your channel have covered so many things. I mean, not just only about the courses with your like teaching and sharing on the skill set as well. But now because I'm only working on the back end now on my company, so I didn't watch as much as I used to be. There was some part of it you mentioned about like SQL that I watched. Yeah, because I don't have like the idea of how is it working until watching your part of the channel and correlated to the work that I've been doing now. So yeah, your sharing is essential, absolutely essential.
Oh, thanks. I appreciate that, and very happy that it's helping. And have you been to the university up to Edinburgh?
No, of course I've been to Edinburgh before, traveling, but I never been to university either.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I'm hoping to go maybe next year, and I'll probably try and visit when I go. I'm gonna hopefully have a visit and walk the Highland Trail, the West Highland Trail.
Oh,
okay. Yeah. So I was thinking, I should go and stop in at the university. I wanted to go to the convocation, but at that time it was still kind of COVID. COVID was just ending, and so people were so careful about that stuff. But
Oh, yeah.
yeah. So yeah, did you have any questions or?
Uh, no, I'm just so happy to meet you. I didn't expect any like actual conversation even with you on this because yeah, I mean you have such a rich experience before in terms of your work, before you joining. I just actually want to ask like people like you have been working in the industry for some time and you trying to go back for part of the application on this. Um, because when I'm talking with some of my colleagues, like from civil engineering, mechanical engineering, they doing like really good on their own tasks and also in part of digital development. They thought like go to school, like do a master, for them is absolutely waste of time. So what do you think about like, people like you have such a rich experience background and go back to do a master?
Yeah, that's actually, I think that's an interesting question. So I had a bachelor's degree in economics. So I had a Bachelor of Arts. I finished when I was 22. I was very young, no experience in the world, but I had some programming experience from when I was a kid, but I never really thought about having a technology career. And
Mm,
then I had an opportunity, um, maybe 4 or 5 years later, after I graduated from university, to work on some databases, and it sort of clicked with me. I remember at the time, and so I started working with Microsoft Access and then SQL Server, and I was writing these little applications, and uh, for me, it became a journey of self-teaching.
mm,
And so I was a self-taught programmer for many, many years. I had experience from when I was a kid, doing basic programming and things like that. And then I learned VBA, back in late 90s and early 2000s. And then I really kind of like at one point, um, after reading about data normalization and designing front ends and doing all these other things, that I was starting to incorporate that into my work a lot.
mm,
And so I started my own company. But when I eventually I kind of I had some discussions with university, my previous university where I mentor,
mm,
and one of the staff there at UBC,
mm,
she mentioned that um, people do notice the value of a degree,
mm,
um, but it's like a delayed response, and so usually people that get a bachelor's degree, they notice difference between them and their colleagues,
mm,
between 5 and 10 years after they get their degree. They notice that their progress is different.
mm,
And I kind of noticed that with my bachelor degree. But when I was searching for something, I was like, I work in this field.
mm,
I'm so interested in all of these topics. Maybe I should try to challenge myself
mm.
and do a master's degree. And that's when I saw Ed Napier. I saw what they were offering, and it was online,
Yeah.
and I just decided, hey, maybe I should go for it. And I actually, at first, I thought maybe I'll try the data science program.
Mm,
But when I looked at the two curriculum, I noticed that the data engineering curriculum was a lot more closely aligned with work that I've already done.
mm,
And so I thought, well, maybe I can fill in some holes in my knowledge.
mm.
Maybe I can overcome that feeling of imposter syndrome that we all get. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
When you're programming something and you're like, am I, do I fit here? Am I really doing this? And I find almost 99% of programmers all have that until they get very, very senior. And
Okay.
so, yeah, so for me, it was really getting a master's was about getting a credential
Mm,
um, that shows I really know this stuff,
mm,
and I and most self-taught programmers that I know, they go, you know what?
Mm.
They have all these things that they say, and I'm part of it too, because I was a self-taught programmer.
Yeah.
You know, all the best engineers at, you know, Google or whatever, they're all self-taught, and, you know,
Yeah.
all the engineers here, they're all self-taught. And I thought, well, that's really great and everything. But for me, I kind of was like, it would be really nice to get a credential that says, this is what I do. This is, you know, this is what I'm good at. And so, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. I thought it was a very good, program, and it challenged me quite a bit.
Yeah.
Because my Java was not great going in. I had very little Java experience, and we wrote a whole pipeline in Java. And then, you know, doing the Python machine learning was really interesting for me, and it actually opened a whole bunch of doors for me after I finished. I had all of these neat ideas and things that I could work on for my customers. Once I had that sort of basic machine learning with Python. So very, very cool. I feel like it was totally worth it. And I'm wearing my Napier hoodie right now. So there you go, my Ed Napier hoodie. And I'm a fan, and that's sort of why I did it.
Okay. Yeah. But it's good to hear this, because honestly, before I decided to enroll to the course, I did consider some bootcamp courses, where you find probably very popular today. Of course, I didn't do it because of the work that I've been doing, that I do not want to just quit my job and jump to a bootcamp and change career like this, because I still like the work that I've been doing, and I enjoying the time in my company. And the online capability in the courses, that's given us the flexibility which I need with my family as well. I'm so glad that you have, talk about it. I mean, even in your channel, when you try to enroll in course, explaining what is taught on this, because I have to say the university didn't do much on the advertisement. Maybe they
Yeah.
they don't they have a. I mean, I see their curriculum, but there's no such detail as what you have explained on the channel.
Oh, I see. Oh,
Yeah.
I'm glad I could help with that.
Yeah.
And I remember trying to find more about it too when I was looking, and I didn't find a lot. So maybe that's some feedback, that we could give those guys.
Yeah.
I know I'm not sure how it is in the United States. I know you're in London, but in Canada, one big benefit that I get of having the master's degree is that, especially being a contractor. So I'm also a contractor, a consultant, and I work on government projects. I work on private projects, but for many of the government bids that we do here in Canada, you having the master's degree opens the door to bid on those. You can't even bid on some of them unless you have a master's degree in a data related subject.
Okay.
And so for me, I was doing a whole bunch of work, and it really helped. I mean, I did a whole bunch of work as a self-taught developer, but then I would see these big opportunities that I knew I could do, but I didn't have the credential. And so the master's also helps in that regard.
Oh, I see. I also saw some LinkedIn posts about if you were data engineering, application employee, they do request of course, a bachelor degree in computer science, but they want to have a specific stream on data engineering, where I think in general, there are not much choices that you can pick in data engineering courses. In the UK as well, or I don't know, in Canada, maybe there are any options.
Yeah, data engineering, I think has I think it's pretty new, but also what I find out with my customers and out in the world is that data engineering is a very specific thing. People know if you're a data engineer and you have a credential, you're going to be able to do these things
Mm.
that are in data engineering. Like you're
Yeah.
going to be able to write data pipelines, design databases, you're going to be able to do these things.
Mm.
Whereas compared with something like data science is very nebulous, at least I find, in what people know. And that's one of the things that came up in the classes at Ed Napier was about data science, was that data science teams are very diverse. You'll have one guy that's like, he's a statistics master guy, and
Yeah.
you'll have another guy that's more like, he just has tons of domain knowledge,
Yeah.
and another guy will actually be able to do programming.
Mm.
But with data engineering, it's like, no, data engineering is data engineering. If a guy's a data engineer, and especially if he has a credential as a data engineer, he's going to know how to do these things.
Yeah.
And I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, that's why I didn't go for data science as well. Yeah, I
Oh,
think
really?
yeah, it's too broad, and I do take a courses in IBM data science courses. They actually talk about everything a little bit. They talk about R, they talk about Python, like SQL. They do have mentioned it, but I don't know how to pixel it together.
Okay.
There was no such like details about like what books should I read and why we do it. And yeah, I find this course useful. And thank you for your scholarship and your introduction on channel. That is valuable. I think not just only to me, but for many people. Yeah.
Oh, I'm glad to hear that. And definitely many thanks to you for coming on here today, and I wish you absolute best in your study, and make sure we'll keep in touch.
Definitely. Yeah.